those all emanate from the foundation in one way or the other? Mm-hmm. I heard a Good sensitive mic there. Silver City's there. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that your particular clubs may have done that involve the foundation. Let's start with Silver City.
Well, we participate in polio eradication, raising funds.
Right.
Down in Guatemala as well, and worked on that project.
Okay, Elaine's overseeing that. That's a global grant.
Leslie, what about the work that your club does down in Mexico?
Yes, Peter just mentioned that we had that grant in Palomas where we put help with the library and computers, iPads, lots of different educational things.
Uh-huh.
Quite
Good.
successful.
Any of you going to the by-district conference this weekend in Las Cruces?
I don't know that any of us from Silver City are attending.
Okay. Deborah, how about out in your area?
Well, having just kind of come back into the sort of board level area for our club after being on an extended leave of absence, I can speak to a project we did with a club in Mexico regarding helping to perform eye surgeries for, I can't remember the name of the condition. And we partnered with another club to do that. And at the moment, I'm not clear as to current projects we're working on, but the Guatemalan water project sounds familiar to me as well. So that may be one that we have also helped. I do know that when Governor Tom visited our club a couple of weeks ago, he had all his old paperwork in order, and he read off a whole list of things that our club had helped participate in through the foundation. And
Right.
I remember the details of the list.
That's a pretty lengthy list because I helped him put that together. I can also tell you that you're working with some other clubs right now locally on a community grant to put in a, I guess you would call it an arena stadium that's going to go into one of the parks. I think you're involved with a couple of clubs in Albuquerque, as well as maybe the other club in Rio Rancho as well. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember the details, but I remember I think it was at least 3 or 4 clubs. Somebody needs to answer the door. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else think of something? Elaine, are you familiar? I guess you or your husband are familiar with any of the projects in Las Cruces?
Well, we do have some projects that we're working on with Mexico as far as global grants. We have worked on global grants in water projects, in orphanages in the past. So there's lots of different projects that we have worked on.
Okay, I guess you're not going to make it to by district, huh?
Not from California.
Okay, well, I'll miss you. I'll miss seeing you there. How about a couple of other things that Elaine and Seifert's bandwidth is low, so we're liable to lose them, or we just did. I'm not sure which.
They
How
came
about
to
some other
second.
things? How about some other things? Anybody familiar with Rotary Peace Centers?
Yes.
Those are usually affiliated with a university in various countries in the world. We have had, and maybe I think we might still have, a student at one of those peace centers. How about VTTs? Who knows what they are? Vocational training teams. Does that ring a bell with anybody? What was the old name for that? I've been using VTTs now for a couple of years. I've forgotten myself.
Yes. Is that GSC?
Pardon?
GSC?
Yeah. We now have VTTs, which also, you remember, they at one time were restricted from Rotary members, but now a Rotary member can join a VTT to take their particular talents to somewhere else in the world and help somebody else out. How about foundation scholarships? We've had some of those in our district in recent years. Usually they're peace scholars that end up at one of the various universities that has one of these centers. And of course, I don't think I need to spend much time on talking with you about Polio Plus, but these are all activities that the foundation works on. You know, I'm looking at you up in Oregon, and you really look a lot better than you did in the past. So whatever you did, it's you got your bandwidth up, and you're up and at 'em again. So how does this interface with your club? Anybody?
All right, Don, this is Deborah. Again, I might be kind of way off base here, but does this have something to do with E-Ray, every Rotarian every year?
Yeah, we're going to get to E-Ray specifically in a minute, but you're on the right track.
Okay.
Translated from what you're saying and putting it in general terms, you're talking about the clubs contributing to the activities and helping to raise funds for the foundation, right?
Yes.
How can these funds get to the foundation? You mentioned E-Ray.
Mm-hmm.
How about a Rotarian just deciding that maybe for tax reasons his or her accountant says, give a little money to Rotary, so they make a check out to the RI individually, foundation, right?
As in the case of making a choice to designate that donation to something like Polio Plus?
You could do that. You don't have to designate it, but you certainly can designate it.
Right.
As can your club take club funds and donate it to the foundation. Were all of you aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So they can be made by individuals or clubs. What else? How about corporations? They can give, right? And give me another example. How about District 5520 making a donation to the foundation? It can be done, and it is done. Other people that could do it are non-governmental organizations, specifically governments can do it, or just fundraising for to the general public. So there's a lot of ways of getting that money to the foundation. And our district does a number of those. And what does that do for whomever is making those donations? What do we do to give them incentive to do that?
They become a Paul Harris recipient.
There you go. Recognition, that's right. How about anybody else?
Well, one other thing is that you get to leverage your dollars with other people's dollars, so you know you're doing the most good that perhaps you couldn't do by yourself.
That's absolutely true. You can also be a major donor or a benefactor, or be a part of the bequest society. But in general, you're right. These are all ways of giving and being recognized for giving. Another way of being recognized. And I know Elaine's aware of this. Some others might be too. But some of that money comes back to us. You'll learn more of that later, but it's in the form of monies that are given from the foundation to the district for its use or its distribution to various clubs in their quest to do better for their community. Again, we'll get into that in a little more detail. So we've rolled through this pretty rapidly. Does anybody have any comments or questions at this point?
Tom, I have a quick question.
Two of you spoke up at once. So who was Jeff? Were you one of them?
I was, but I can go second.
This is Peter Fowley in Silver City.
Okay.
I'm sidelines of Hibbetson. But I have a question. We just established our own local foundation. What if this local foundation makes contributions to the Rotary Foundation? Would those contributions count toward Paul Harris points for the club? Difficult technical question.
It is, and I think the answer may be no. I am not sure of that. I will try to get you an answer to that question. But
I think, Dom,
yes.
In a roundabout way, Peter, it could be done if your foundation gifted those points to an individual. I believe it can be done that way.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we could also make payment to the club, and the club could then give it to the foundation. I guess that would be another way to get around it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the...
His other response was that their foundation could give to their club, and the club in turn give it to the foundation. And I think that would work.
I don't think so. I think we'll find that you can only gift it once. So you can't re-gift it. So there's some little tweaking and things that you have to look into, Dom, I believe.
Okay.
This has been my experience.
Probably the answer is talk to a
But it's,
CPA.
Peter, it's really,
The answer probably is
talk to Rotary Foundation.
talk to the foundation or talk to a local CPA or tax expert. But one thing we do know is those donations can be counted back towards the club's activities. And as I said, we'll get back into that at a later time. Any other questions or comments? Okay, getting back to what Deborah mentioned earlier, what is E-Ray all about? What is E-Ray? E-R-E-Y.
Every
It's
Rotarian, every year,
every Rotarian, every year, what?
making a contribution to the annual fund.
Okay, what is the annual fund?
Well, it's probably kind of like, I'm not sure I have the right answer, but it's probably kind of like a general fund into which undesignated donations would flow. And then the foundation would determine what or how to send those funds out appropriately.
All right, let's. You're pretty much on target. Let's back up a little bit and say that there are two funds at the foundation. You've probably heard both of their names before. One is called the annual fund that we just talked about. What's the name of the other fund? Somebody said something. Speak up.
Endowment.
There you go. The endowment fund. Now, here's the $50 question. What's the difference?
Well, again, I don't know the specifics, Don, but in general terms, an endowment is set up to preserve the principal donated and use the accumulated interest that or dividends that are earned to do charitable causes or projects. And that perpetuates the endowment itself, so it never goes away. And I don't know if that's how the Rotary Endowment Fund works, but that's general terms.
How about the annual fund?
That distributes the money. It's a checking account.
There you go. The annual fund is like the foundation's checking account and used to spend on programs in a 3-year cycle. And again, we'll get into those details in a bit. And the endowment fund, Deborah was pretty close to being right on track again. You can look at it as the foundation's savings account. And it used to be called the permanent fund. And it's used, if you will, to keep, I guess in general terms, I think you could say that it manages the corpus of the funds that are accumulated for the foundation. And then the corpus in most foundations is that core amount of money that the foundation has that is used to generate income for the operations and the funding of projects, which is what the annual fund does. Okay.
Dom, I've got a particular question on that. The proceeds from the endowment fund, beyond the corpus, the money that's generated, does it actually go to the same projects, matching and stuff that the annual fund does?
No, I don't believe that's quite the way they operate. Although I'm not an expert on that. I think they probably help defray some of the expenses from managing the investments that the endowment fund has. There are fees and such that go into that. You have various kinds of investment managers that do that on a day-to-day basis for the endowment fund. I think the monies that you're thinking of are the monies that come in through E-Ray and other things that go to the operating fund. And as you know, and you'll learn more about this in another session, the foundation gets to keep that for about 3 years. And they use those earnings from those investments to defray the overhead of the foundation and then return some of that to the various districts for their use in their projects and such. Somebody was going to say something, I thought.
No, we're fine. Thank you.
Okay, that help you?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Dom, just a quick question. The endowment fund, being more like the savings account as you alluded to it, I'm assuming that it also can take non-cash contributions like property if people have a will or an estate, that the endowment fund can take non-cash donations and use that as part of its portfolio?
Other kinds of endowment funds can do that, but that, as in my club's foundation, there are policies that are developed as to what it will consider a legitimate donation to accept and what is not. And I must tell you that I am unfamiliar with those policies as far as the RI Foundation is concerned. I'm not aware that they will take property, but they might.
Okay.
I'm talking about real property.
Right. Thank you.
So I can't answer that question.
Thanks.
It would have to be whatever their policies are.
Yeah, I can answer that question.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, Andy Anderson, who is our foundation chair and former past district governor, is well versed in the foundation, and he gave us a presentation last week, and he said that people have donated farms, houses, you name it, and what they do is they'll turn it over to a broker and sell it, and then they'll get they can't keep property, buildings, things like that, or land, but they can sell it and they can take the proceeds of that and it goes in the endowment fund.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Bruce. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we've talked about a lot considering the amount of time we had with the foundation. We're going to wrap this up a little early, so Bruce, if you're next, go warm those vocal cords up. We've all had experiences with the foundation. Probably each one of us has given to the foundation, and some of us have been actually able to see some of the rewards through community grants or global grants in our time with Rotary. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to wrap this up early. There's no sense in beating it up. I appreciated being with all of you. If you have nothing else for me, I'll turn it back to Jeffrey.